trying to introduce a new queen to this hive because it is queenless. We had originally put some eggs in, hoping that they'd make their own queen. Didn't happen. Not quite sure why, but we have a queen and a queen cage here. We're gonna keep an eye on them and see what happens. Make sure they're not trying to sting her through the cage or anything like that. Doesn't really look like they are, so that's a good sign. We'll watch it for another minute or two just to confirm
that they're not balling.
That they're not balling her, trying to overheat her and kill her, anything like that, before we put the cage in the hive and close it up.
How did we determine that it was queenless?
The only brood that we saw was drone brood. We didn't see much of that even. So we searched each hive each frame several times just to confirm that we didn't see a queen on it. Didn't see any eggs, didn't see any worker brood. The last inspection, we didn't see a queen, which is why we added a frame of eggs.
So what sort of actions are we looking for from the bees here with the queen in this box?
With the queen in this box, we want to make sure that they're not trying to ball her, which will make her overheat and die. We want to make sure they're not trying to sting her through the cage itself. We want to make sure that they're trying to actually take care of her, which will lead to acceptance.
So if there were double the amount of bees right now crawling all over it, would that be a cause for concern? Like if a lot of these bees came up out?
I would say yes.
Okay, how's she gonna get out?
Well, how she'll get out is the bees will slowly acclimate to her, and this one we don't actually have any candy. Typically they'll have candy on one end, but we have painter's tape on actually both ends. Oh, hold on, you just, okay, there we go. We have painter's tape on both ends. So as they acclimate to her, they'll try and free her. So they'll actually end up chewing through the painter's tape. And it looks like they're almost a circle around where she is inside the cage. So hopefully, it looks like this is a good sign. It doesn't look like they're trying to ball her to me.
Yeah, so double the amount of bees just stacked on top of each other and loud noise, that would tell me that she's not being accepted, she's being balled.
Yeah. And the fact that we still have bees over here just hanging out on other frames, even though we set this queen cage right on top of the frames and they didn't all try and come up and attack, that's a good sign.
So why do we put candy, hard candy in here to block the entrances?
That just ensures that the entire hive has time to adjust to her pheromones and accept her before they release her.
So that gives her about 3 to 5 days to staying in the cage, but they're feeding her through the cage.
So they'll start taking care of her. And typically you'll see 3 to 5 attendants in the cage with her, like if you were to go buy a queen from someone. So she has some attendants to take care of her already. And then as the rest of the hive that you put her into acclimate to her, they'll actually start taking care of her too, and they'll end up chewing through the candy to release her.
And that's what balling looks like. It's an alternative way of killing something without actually killing the bees. They will just essentially latch on to the enemy and vibrate themselves until they create heat and become an oven. And they just cook that little guy and he's done.
Okay, so we're going to hang our queen cage here. It's got a little metal piece. This is meant to hang from one of the frames. We have one frame here that's not fully drawn. We're going to make it nice and easy. We're going to hang her from this frame here, right next to that partially drawn wax frame. Let's push it over.
Oh, I can move this, or we can just tape it. Doesn't really matter.
But that will give her the queen cage a little bit of room, and that'll give the bees time to acclimate to her and accept her. And then we will set a reminder in our calendars. We'll come back in probably 3 days, see how everything's going, see if they've already chewed through that painter tape. And we'll come back and check, and we'll let you know. And you'll see this blue painter's tape. We have the metal piece is actually right underneath that. And you can kind of see, the bees will get out of the way. But she's actually hanging in between these two frames here. So there's a little opening in between where there's no drawn wax to make it a little bit easier for her. But we just taped on the top of that metal piece just to make sure it doesn't slip anywhere. Some people used thumbtacks. That'll work too. But this painter's tape, nice and easy, and it'll pull off super easy later on when we make sure that she's been released or we decide to release her. It's been 4 days since we put this queen in the cage into this hive because they were queenless. They're keeping her alive. They're doing a good job of that. Haven't killed her or anything like that. So we're going to take off the tape and release her. Okay. And we'll just keep an eye on her, make sure she doesn't fly away or anything like that. We want to make sure she goes straight down into the hive.
Which, as a beginner beekeeper, I will tell you, we've had our fair share of queens flying and just scaring the bejesus out of you. So I'm just going to put that, bend that a little bit, put it right there, and hopefully she just crawls her way out. If she doesn't, I'll take the screen off the top and we'll just let her out. She is? Okay.
I'm watching. She's getting down towards the bottom there.
Can you still see in there?
Yeah. She's maybe an inch from the bottom. Looks like they're feeding her. A couple other bees went in there though.
Oh yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Not stinging her though, right?
No. Mm-mm.
After a few minutes, she finally goes down into the hive, and here she is. We caught some pictures of her, just double checking to make sure she's there, because when they just disappear from the queen cage, you get a little concerned. Thanks everybody for watching the video. If you want to learn more about queen cages, what they do, how they're used, how to build them, how to get a queen in that hole, go ahead and go to our website. We're going to be posting all sorts of information there, educational to how to build things, anything extra that we can't really cover on YouTube, or we can cover, but you can't watch YouTube where you're at. So we're going to host it on that website. And then if you also go to our Facebook and Instagram and follow us there, and Twitter, we're going to be posting some behind the scenes sort of stuff that just kind of gives you an idea of what we're working with and how we're making all this happen. So feel free to follow us.
Also, every week, if you leave a comment, I will post your name at the end of the video. So anytime you leave a comment, even if it's great, thanks, I really like this video sucked, because there was a guy that said your videos suck and you know who you are, but I still hosted his name and I explained to him that, you know, we're trying to get better at making our videos. So as we keep getting that kind of feedback of this is bad or this is really good, we're going to keep going down that path and try and get better just for you. So in 3 years now, we can look back and say, you are the one that helped us. Anyway, let's get to posting those names. Thanks.